to pretend like you're a cup of tea and the hago chesa, all they need to do is walk away and wait for you to cool down. And then we can just come back and drink the tea and not address anything that was happening while it was hot. I know because Rakadi has been the intina hori. Question. Gail is either self actualized and living in the present moment, or like it's still Begazella and Yamazella hard. But babes, we're making TV. Okay? This is what it is. Mean girls all around. Nobody is your friend. And I'm not going to show you my heart until you expose your full whole heart. And then when I see your full whole heart, warts and all, maybe I might just show you a little bit of mine, but it depends on what I see. And if any part of you is lacking, you're never going to get it. I'm going to put the armor back up. I'm going to put the defenses back. What are we doing? That stale wig that she was throughout the season, when do I then have space to be a human being? It's the double-edged sword when we're busy adding filters to everything, to our experiences, to our faces, to our lives. At some point, the real you and your real life is going to have to come through. And this was a scheme that she cooked up to, give him the little piece of information and see if he was going to follow the cheese like a little rat. And then she was going to give him the pin for her phone and see if he was going to be sneakish and ratish and use that pin to unlock her phone. And then when he did, he was the rat that got trapped in the trap for the cheese. Stupid games. Stupid prices. Rakgadi ne a rera kajeko. Ne ke rera, guys. Hello everybody and welcome to Rakgadi's Views with me, Rakgadi Watsona, where I give you my views on reality. And we are doing Married at First Sight Mzansi, episode 13, which was the reunion. And then there's going to be another reunion next week with a host. So I don't know. This was more of maybe like a wrapping it up of the season with the experts, more than a reunion. I think it was just a check-in and a wrap-up. But yes, welcome to anybody who's a new viewer. Welcome to Rakgadi. I'm not going to say a family, guys, because families are dysfunctional. And I think we've all got enough dysfunction happening in our real lives. But certainly of a community, of people who enjoy watching reality, who are interested in human behavior, and especially interested in what we can learn from seeing people who go onto these shows and put their business in the streets for us to consume, but mostly to learn and to see what can be reflected in our own lives as we move forward. And for those who are returning, welcome back. Guys, get strapped in because, this review, I thought, 10 to 15 minutes into the reunion, I thought this was going to be a very short review. Because it was just highlight reels and, people asking them, how do you feel? What do you think? How was the journey? But as I sat and marinated a little bit more on what I was seeing and what I was hearing, there are some quite important themes, I think, that can be unpacked here. So this is going to be in the same fashion as most of the other reviews, which is a long form one. So get strapped in if you're doing your errands, if you're driving in the car, wherever you are. Turn up the volume and let's get into it. So episode 13 reunion starts with, as I said, highlight reels. Everybody's sitting on the couch. The panel who are asking the questions is our experts. All three of them except for Anele. So there's Dr. Zenda and there's Bake and Nokwanda Dlamini. Anele Batung is not there. And I missed his presence because in episode 12, when they were doing the commitment ceremony, for me, Anele was saying all the things that we were all thinking and he was calling a thing a thing. So I was very sad to see that he wasn't here for the taping of this episode, and he was missed. But they tried to, the other three to ask the questions that needed to be asked. So anyway, everybody's watching the highlight reels, and then, the experts are asking each of the couples, what do you guys feel viewing that? How do you feel about the journey thus far? Just fluffy stuff. What happened? Dee said that she felt like it was an out of body experience. Tabang said for him he doesn't regret anything. He'd do it again with the same person, because for him it was a great experience overall. Sebenzile was emotional. Nah, he was tearing up a bit. And he says it feels like it was a long time ago, and they've come a long way. So I mean, re mo shapela matsogo for expressing emotion. I think for me, maybe I just didn't understand where his emotions were coming from and why. All he said is we've come a long way. But maybe it was a beautiful thing for him to witness. Which great. Zutobile, of course, just waterfalls. And we know that she is a very emotional person, and she's sensitive, and she's not afraid to express herself through tears. And so the experts ask her, based on that, how is she doing? She says she's happy for now, quote unquote, for today. I'm happy. Listen, that's an honest answer that we can live with. However, the wording of that for me, question. Gail is either self actualized and living in the present moment, or like it's still Begazella and Yamezella hard. Anyway, then they bring the couples to like the hot seat, one by one. So the first couple that they bring up is Dee and Kuto, and I will give it to Dee. Girl looked great. She looked good. That yellow color is working for her skin tone. Her braids, the color choice of even the braids was fire. And for me, can I just, even if she doesn't watch this, but like Dee for me looks better with natural hair and African hairstyles. That stale wig that she was throughout the season, ha arso ichifta kaofela. Girl, I hope that now that the season is up, can we please do something about that wig? D, keep it with the cornrows, keep it with the braids. You look beautiful. She looked really, 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 really great. I'm gonna give it to her. She looked amazing. So D and Kuzo, they sit there in the seat. Experts ask a check-in question. So Dee says, for her in her life, she was struggling to find men who were reflective and introspective. And Kuzo has, grown into that over time. And so she appreciates that a lot because it was something that she thought she wasn't going to be able to find. Um, and she says they've spent a lot of time, reflecting on themselves individually and reflecting on themselves as a couple. It was a little bit of a PR answer. I'm not saying it wasn't honest, but it was feeling very much, now that maybe I've seen some tapes of my behavior and my reactions, I've pulled myself towards myself, and let me just give a different side and perspective of who I am. So this was a much calmer D. I think she was thinking before she speaks a lot, in this particular episode of things. Then Kuto's experience was that, he started off the experiment, wanting very much to retain control of his emotions, because that's the type of person that he was. But as time went on, he found it more and more difficult to be able to do that, because he found himself triggered on more occasions than he would like to be. And then they ask them, about, baby daddy Wati, who was, the third party in the relationship. Had Kuzo had voiced that, I think, on two different occasions throughout the season. And where were they with that? So D is the one then who took that answer on, and she was like, listen, she doesn't feel that her baby daddy is part of their relationship in that sense, but she does realize that her interactions with her co-parent do bleed out into her relationship with Ukuzo, and what she needs to work on is sharing with Kuzo, so that sharing certain parts of her life with him, so that he is aware of what's going on, and basically try to bring him a little bit more into the picture. And then they also ask about, the golden envelope exercise when all hell broke loose. And basically asking, how does Dee feel about that, now that she's seeing it? And Dee is sticking to her guns that it was not just a game. And she says that people need to grow up and stop being mean girls. This, I'll give it to her. It wasn't a game. Of course, Nele Mutsakoya production girl. Come on. Like, they're trying to get some spice, some explosions for ratings. You're on TV. So yes, it wasn't just a game. They were very pointed questions, very spicy questions, bordering on invasive, not even bordering, they were invasive questions. So yeah, it was not a game, it was TV. TV, okay? Um, but D is saying, yes, people need to stop being mean girls. Then Dr. Zenda's like, you talking about a mean girl? Are you referring to any particular person? Then D says, no, she's not. Like, maybe it could be a guy, but she feels like, the tone was very much, a female, and whoever it is, they need to go to therapy. I don't know. If they're going to therapy, don't send them to your therapist. But for me, at the end of the day, I can sense that you're still touched on your Studio D, ba o kgatile di-cons. But let this be a lesson to everybody out there who still has aspirations of being on reality television. You are signing up for TV to make entertainment, most of the time at your expense. That is what's happening on reality television. So I think everybody maybe must just be clear on that agenda. Maybe, you might not be anticipating that producers will go as far as they do to get reactions out of you. But babes, we're making TV. Okay? This is what it is. Mean girls all around. Nobody is your friend. But anyway, then Buitepo jumps in, while she's, giving her feedback that people are mean girls and they need to go to therapy and stop with the BS. Then Buitepo, I don't know. Wait a minute. Whoa, girl, rewind. Buitepo's like, this is all very interesting because D was the first person when we were all asked questions. D was the one who was standing on the pulpit and telling us all that we must all answer the questions that we are asked and we must answer the questions honestly. And now, all of a sudden, D gets asked these questions and she's throwing a fit, flying off the roof, lefatshe le a fela, and Boitsepo basically called D a hypocrite. And she's saying that now, D can't handle the truth and she can't handle her own truth. Essentially, Boitsepo's like, D, you can dish it, but you can't take it. And she wasn't lying, but those were fighting words, girl. And I was here for it. Show us some personality, Boitsepo. We're here. It's about time. Um, and Boitsepo told D that, labeling people as mean and rude is not necessarily, the paintbrush that she thinks people should be painted with, because people were asking you questions that you couldn't answer. That's all. Doesn't mean that there are all these labels now that you want to be attaching them to. And I was like, oh, This is nice. This is nice. And not just because it's messy, but I think because it actually did need it needed to be said, you know. And it is what it is. Then Kuto says, for him, the golden envelope, the aftermath of that, it was the lowest of the low for them in their relationship. And, he doesn't think that they could go any lower, but he's very grateful that they had that experience. And, like, I'm grateful that you had that experience because I think they both seem to have learned a lot, maybe about each other out of it. Is it going to be the lowest of the low? I don't know, guys. Relationships are long, hey. Lots of things can happen. But re tla bona ko pele. I don't even know if they're together, guys, anymore. I don't know what's happening out there, but we'll see. Then Nokwanda asks them, what helped them to get to this better place. And Kuzo Are, we had sex. Full stop. Mtavazo! Listen, it seems like Kuto's pipe is still piping. Okay! Hey! And he knows how to use it. We'll leave it there. Hi, they walk off. Everybody's happy. Great, great, great. Next couple to get into the hot seat is Sebenzile and Buitepo. And, Dr. Zenda then asks Buitepo that basically, girl, you were looking for a unicorn. Did you find it? She says, she deserves everything. She deserves all the sparkles. She deserves all the glitter. Didn't really say whether she found a unicorn. Didn't answer that question. I noted that. But she says she deserves glitter and sparkles. Seven Zile's like, I also deserve glitter and also, Seven Zile's outfit, guys. He was coming out looking like a 90s R&B singer about to get on the stage. Shirt unbuttoned, got the gold chain, chest out, oiled down. Okay. Hey, brothers are out here advertising themselves and like go for it because at least you've got the body for it. But I was clocking that and I was like, what is going on? So they're sitting there and they're saying all of these things, sparkle, glitter, hee hee ha ha. For me, what was very interesting about these two was the body language. And I think I'm gonna. I think I did take a clip, a little picture or a clip where you can see how these two are sitting next to each other. Their body language, guys. I can about body language. 97% of communication. That body language was not communicating. Well, the body language wasn't aligned with what was coming out of their mouths. Let me say that. They were faced away from each other. And I didn't really see hand holding, cuddling. They weren't leaning into each other. So, question mark, Sebenzile Mbuitsebo. Anyway, they asked Sebenzile about, the comment that he made in one of the previous episodes that, he still has feelings for one of his exes. And Buitepo felt a way about that. She had a very strong negative reaction to him telling her that truth. And Sebenzile was like, bruh, look, like, we go into relationships and people make an impact on us. You know what I mean? And he's like, I wouldn't be the person that I am if it wasn't from the experiences that I had in previous relationships and the things that I learned. So there's no way that I can sit here and pretend that, people didn't have an impact on me and that one particular person I learned a lot about myself from. So yes, there's still feelings. Then Buitepo, tells us that, she also unpacked her reaction and her statements the day after she made them away from the cameras. And she came to the realization, that she was overreacting and maybe it was because of the cameras, that she said what she said. But she also just recognizes that, yeah, she can't be holding him to that and she can't really get that upset about it. And she sees things from his perspective. Then they are asked the question of, the perception that they are the perfect couple. And for me, you could see, I think Sebenzile is a lot more affected by that type of rhetoric than Boitsepo, and not in a good way, because he did say that he's not the perfect couple, and he doesn't particularly like those type of sentiments that are made. He says that they took time to get to know each other and speak about what they like and they don't like, and to basically negotiate around each other, which I'm glad to hear him say that. But unfortunately for you guys, we didn't see any of that on our screens. So I'm not saying that I don't believe him, but I think this is where you can also just see the danger of a certain narrative being crafted. Because I still believe that producers crafted a narrative for this couple. They craft narratives for everybody. This is reality TV, but reality, right? So they crafted this narrative for this couple, and unfortunately, I think they also played into that narrative. And this is where I saw for the first time that the scheme that Todd cooked up to come up with the bullshit, yeah, the producers, the scheme of this narrative, um is actually, it disadvantages them, I think, now, and maybe they're recognizing that when they come to the end of this reunion, and then we're getting feedback about how we are perceived by other people, because I think this narrative of the perfect couple is providing them the same amount of pressure as it is for the disaster couple like Tammy and Zitobile, because there is so much that I think they have to, or they feel that they're going to have to live up to, based on what was shown, based on how their story was crafted. That if they are now positioned as the Beyonce and Jay-Z, yeah, married at first sight Mzansi, that is what the public is going to be expecting from them. And that is a very tall order for anybody to actually live up to. And for me, I think that's what I was seeing on Sebenzile's face and in his body language, where I think now it's just that it's hitting him that, like, I'm a real person, and I'm nuanced and I'm complex. And Sebenzile even made the statements, I think, when they were still deliberating around commitment ceremony, that for him, he was worried because everything has been fine. And for him, he can't really make a proper decision, because if things are fine, he doesn't really know what things are going to be looking like when they're not fine, how they're going to be reacting to each other. Like, basically, we've just been seeing each other's best sides, so we haven't seen the worst of each other and what we've got to bring to the table. So that, I think, was making him anxious. And I think, yes, reality TV in general, there's not very many shows that are crafted in a way that allows for nuance and complexity to come through. And this was the first time where I actually realized that, like, yeah, I do actually feel sorry for this couple a little bit, because I think they're going to, if they are not very intentional going out into the world after this with being their real selves, it's going to be a lot of pressure that they're going to have to be living up to. And there's a lot of standards that people have for this perfection, because the perfection was crafted, the perfection was edited in a certain way. And I think their dynamic and how they interacted with each other also was giving perfection. And there's no such thing when we are relating to each other in an intimate relationship. So, re tla bona gore how the cookie is going to crumble here. But yeah, no, it's real. It's real. And I think Sebenzile was finally realizing that. I don't know about Buitepo, but Sebenzile was giving that, like, it's finally, the pin is dropping, that when you give the perception of perfection, and maybe it was unintentional and unconscious from his part, but when you're giving the image of perfection to other people, there's very little room for you to then be a human being. There's very little room for you to fail. And unfortunately, you are giving perfection on television, where people's minds create that one dimensional picture of who you are. So, Godspeed and good luck to the two of you. And it's a great case study for all of us as well, because we're all out here interacting on social media. If you're watching this, you are on YouTube, you're on social media, you're part of it. And it really is offering us a moment to also ask ourselves the questions that if what I'm going to be putting out into the world is an image of perfection, is curated to look and feel a certain way, how do I then actually go out into the real world and interact with people based off of what they have seen? When do I then have space to be a human being? It's the double edged sword when we're busy adding filters to everything, to our experiences, to our faces, to our lives. At some point, the real you and your real life is going to have to come through. And the question is just, are you prepared for that? Or are you also going to be like Sebenzile, deer in the headlights, when it's now becoming apparent to you that it's not just a TV show, it's not just Instagram reels and TikToks. You have to be a real person at some point. And there's only, you can only, the mask, guys, the masks that we wear, the mask can only last for so long. It really can. And once that mask is not sticking on your, it's not masking anymore. Ke more re kena ko depression, le anxiety, because your soul tells you that, like, babes, I'm tired of this avatar. Hey, like, can we give it a rest? Educational, edutainment, married at first sight. So yeah, I do wish them the best in navigating that. And it's gonna be real, it's gonna be tough, it's gonna be difficult. Just because I think Buitepo gives me the sense that I think she's not new to this, but she's true to this in terms of see on lights, camera, action. Um, and I'm not saying that she's a fake person. I don't know her. These are strangers that I'm commenting on the internet. But she gives me that she can thug it out a lot longer. Um, I don't know about Usebenzile. I don't know about him, but yeah, like I wish you guys the best. The pressure that's on from this storyline. Vaya con Dios, guys. Okay, next couple. So we've got Tabang and Kumo. They are next in the hot seat. Then Kumo expresses that, for her, she was really only committed and really trying to work on their relationship towards the end. For the most part, she wasn't really in it. And this is the one thing that I will give it. Listen, Kumo, she said a lot of things that were problematic, but she also said a lot of things that felt true. And this was like the first time I think I've listened to her and watched her and felt like, okay, she is genuinely expressing her truth. Whether we like it, whether it's palatable or not, I felt like we were finally getting to see genuine aspects of her, which I really appreciated. So Kuma says, yeah, so she wasn't like super fully committed. It was only towards the end. And in her estimation, she says that she was honest with Tabang, but not entirely, babes. You can't be honest, but not entirely. I think you're honest or you're not. So for me, it was still, she was still a dodger. She was dodging this accountability when it came to the expose of her and the entanglement that Tabang exposed in the previous episode. Because in everything that she said while she sat here, she never said, yes, I was actually dating this other person. I was still involved emotionally, mentally, we don't know physically, with this other person while I was in this with you, Tabang. She never actually came out and said that. She just was pseudo accountable. Gore, yeah, I wasn't entirely honest, but there were moments that I was honest, and like you should have recognized that. I don't know. Then she says, what she was doing because she's not naive, quote unquote, in this relationship game, and that she was laying out a trap for Tabang. This was a scheme that she cooked up to, give him the little piece of information and see if he was going to follow the cheese like a little rat. And then she was going to give him the pin for her phone and see if he was going to be sneakish and rattish and use that pin to unlock her phone. And then when he did, he was the rat that got trapped in the trap for the cheese. Stupid games, stupid prizes. This is the thing for me. I don't know if that was her attempt to save face by making it seem that like this was the trap that she set up. I don't know. If what she is saying is true, then my question remains, why were you then here on this television show claiming to want a partner and settle down? If you're going to be playing games like this, guys, yo, like, but unfortunately, I'm going to reiterate that emotional maturity that I haven't seen is once again lacking, I think, in this type of thinking and this type of behavior. And Tabang himself has admitted in previous episodes that he himself was also playing games with Kumo, stupid things like not doing the housework on purpose so that he could see what her reaction was going to be, or saying specific things to see what her reaction. Both of these people are playing games. It's two peas in a pod, but actually, it was a good thing that they matched them up so that we can have a case study that we can look at and see that this is what happens when we are both in it to lose by playing these stupid games. And I think what was evident when Kumo was saying her piece and explaining is that there really is a hardness that I observed within Kumo. Like there's a toughness. There's a don't fuck with me-ness. Naketa go sota out. I don't take it from anybody. And I think it's evident that she has been hurt and disappointed by people in the past when it comes to romance and love. And I think her having adopted maybe some of the beliefs that she holds is going to make it hard for her to recognize, I think, a good thing even when it is there. And I'm not saying this to rake Kumo off the coals. I'm saying this because she's a great case study. Because I think there are a lot of people who are like this. There are a lot of us. I think actually most people who've been polarization these days, coming out with your licks, with your scars, and especially for the women, because she is a woman. And this is a great example for all of us where hypervigilance, and sensitivity to being hurt manifests like this. It manifests in this way. It manifests in, I'm never ever going to let somebody take advantage of me. I'm never going to allow myself to be hurt by an individual again. I will do the hurting. I will not be hurt. I will do the leaving. I will not be left. I will not trust another person. I am going to protect myself. That's what she's giving me. And this is another lesson for all of us because Kumo Haumobona, she looked great, guys. She looked good. cute little cocktail dress, was in her heels, wig was laid, face was beat, looking like a cute little hen. And this was also another lesson that came up for me. Women, a lot of people are talking about soft girl era. We are embracing our femininity. We are, in the soft life now. And it's all about being a soft girl. And this is a great case study because Kuma on the outside looks like that soft girl. But sit down and wait for her to open her mouth. And all you are getting is armor, war, impi. You won't get past these defenses. That has nothing to do with being in your feminine. Because when you hear her speak and the things that she's saying and the way that she's speaking to the experts and Tabang, the energy that she's giving off is not receptive, it's not nurturing, it's not open, it's not welcoming. It's aggressive, it's defensive. It's I'ma cut your throat before you get to cut mine. Just a case study for all of us. When we are out here collecting these scars in the game of Mjolo, what toll is that taking on our hearts? And this is not just for women, but it's for all of us. Because Lilona, men, you've got hearts, you've got emotions. Kuto told us, you guys are feeling. What is the toll that it is taking on us when we are not tending to the hurt, when we are pretending that we actually didn't get hurt or that it didn't hurt us as deeply as we would like to acknowledge? This is then what we look like out here in the streets. Case study. Not soft, armor on, going to battle. I will not yield. I will not apologize. It is what it is. I am who I am. The only question I have for you that comes from Dr. Phil is how is that working for you? How's it working out? How's it working? Are these things working out for us? Wait, guys, that's why I said this reunion on the surface, not much happened. But underneath, very many lessons for all of us. It's not just about calling them out and dragging them. Where do we see ourselves in these people? And how is our behavior working out for us? How is our lack of acknowledgement of our emotions? How is our lack of our care for our heart? Self-care, great. Go get the massages. Go do the pedis. Go hiking. Go have your nice, solo vacations. I am not saying anybody should not be doing that. Go do those things. But if you're not tending to yourself internally in a way that is actually going to be creating and opening space within yourself for more resilience, for more love, for more openness to life without reservation, how is your self-care actually working out for you? Because when you show up in a way that is open and loving, then we can be a demonstration for each other to do that. Because self-care is about collective care. It's not just about you all the time living the soft life. It is about I tend to myself so that I can vibrate at a different energy, so that I can influence the energy of the circle around me, so that I can be a demonstration of wealth in health, so that I can impact the collective that is around me. You guys, wait again, the way I'm preaching today, and the whole lady wrong, I don't know. Guy. All right, let's move on from Tabak and Kumo. Woo! Well, we're not moving on from them, but let's move on from the sermon because Rakhadi's getting carried away. Anyway, Bake asks Tabang if he believes Kumo's being honest now. And Tabang says, yeah, it feels like she's being honest now. Today, on this couch, saying the things that she's saying. And I also want to note, because I think Tabang and Kumo are also playing in our faces, body language, yeah, Tabang, very much open. Arms open, heart open, tend towards Kumo. Secondly, he's still calling her baby. please stop playing in our faces. I don't think these two people are not together. I think they're still very much together. I don't know about now in real life, but when this was being recorded, very much together. Baby. Body language. Playing in our faces. Um, then Kumo gives very good, I think, analysis of the dynamic between her and Tabang, and I think that's what we needed to hear. So she basically said, she loves love, and her and Tabang have a dynamic where they lean more into love and the, I don't know, what is it, the trappings of love rather than commitment, and the examples that she gives is that, for her, she doesn't usually address issues head on. And I'm glad that she has that awareness about herself. She says for her, Anna, when things are not getting resolved or when there's a real serious issue, she gives up easily. She detaches, she ignores that person and she ignores the problem and she keeps it pushing. Because Anna akasincenga motu, if I've asked you a question and she feels like you're not telling me the truth and I detach from you and I keep it pushing, which is, we're just shoving things under the carpet and we're not resolving. But as I said, at least she's aware of the pattern. So I'm happy about that. Then she says, so that's how she responds. And Tabang he will also then not really address that issue as well, especially if it's an uncomfortable conversation. And so what he will do is then he'll just park it and ignore it and then come back a couple of hours later or a day later, Gadi baby, I love you. You know how I feel about you. I care about you, pretending that nothing is wrong. And let's turn the next page over. Yesterday it didn't happen, but we're not going to talk about it and address it. And that's the dynamic that they've got going on. And I was like, Yazin Kumo, here you are testifying and you are giving us a word. Okay, I can hear this. I feel this. I understand it. And it is a very annoying trait that I think, I'm not going to say all, but some men have. To pretend like you're a cup of tea and the hako chesa, all they need to do is walk away and wait for you to cool down. And then we can just come back and drink the tea and not address anything that was happening while it was hot. I know because Rakhadi has been the intina hori. But she gave us great analysis here. Great, great, great analysis. And I think, we needed to hear that. We needed to hear that so that I think we could understand like what was actually happening behind the scenes and why this team fun, team every day in paradise, is something that they were pushing was really because both of them avoid confrontation, conflict, and then we just get into, the feelings of love and getting carried away. But that cycle can only repeat for so long because you're still going to have to come back and address the issue. It's still whatever you swept under the carpet is still under the carpet. Then Makumo says, well, for her, there's something that she's been wanting to address with Tabang and he hasn't wanted to have this conversation. Then the experts are like, what conversation? Tell us what's going on. And I was like, yes, tell us. We want to know. Makumo says there's a specific woman that Tabang, she doesn't believe is just Tabang's friend. She has asked him about it. Tabang denies that there's anything going on, and Tabang says it's platonic. They're just friends. Then Makuma says, there's something that I didn't want to bring up and make a big deal out of, but she says that she's spiritually gifted, and essentially she's like, when you have a feeling, and then underground gang shows you a movie while you are sleeping. And she's like, they showed her that movie. And then she asked Tabang, who is this girl? What's going on? Tabang's not saying anything. And she's like, they showed me this movie on 3 separate occasions. And she was like, this movie that underground gang is showing me is you, Tabang, sleeping with another girl. Tabang denies till he dies, it wasn't me. So Dr. Zenda asks, okay, Makuma, did you actually ever address this with him directly? And she was like, I ask this person, tells me to my face, wasn't me. So she was like, "Katswa ko ditabeng," because as she said, her pattern is that if it's not going to be addressed, she detaches, she ignores you, she keeps it moving. Um, and I think for me, what I would have appreciated, where was Anele, is that the experts didn't hold Tabang's feet to the fire about these accusations that Makumo was laying at his feet. They just heard what Makumo was saying, and then they were like, "Did you address it?" That's it. Nobody asked Tabang any questions about what Umakumo was saying. And in response to what Makumo alleged, Tabang then says, Makumo knows, how I feel about you. I felt that way about you from the beginning, and I still feel that way about you now. Basically, I love you, you are my girl forever when and that hasn't changed. And I'm here to say, Tabang, that's cute and appreciated. But I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Makumo last week at the recommitment ceremony. What do any of those feelings have to do with the allegations that have been brought to you, my brother? Because you did not answer a single question. You did not deny a single thing that she said. You just sat there and listened to it, but said nothing. And so, for me, my assessment of these two, I really think that they are mirrors of each other in very significant ways. And I'm not sure if they both are willing and open to actually exploring having a relationship on a deeper level outside of TV after this is over. But I think they could actually be very significant for each other in their lives if they continue with this partnership because of the fact that I think they both have very similar protection mechanisms and defense mechanisms and styles. I think they both need to be working on the same issues of trusting each other, of showing up openly. Um, and I think if they really take on, I think the personal development individually, that this opportunity of them being coupled together could afford them, in terms of, wanting to mature emotionally, being accountable, taking responsibility for how they are showing up, um, taking responsibility for themselves, and maybe, crafting a new way of being together and having actual intimacy, because that's what the intimacy is, that I'm taking the leap of faith, and this is my crazy and this is how it shows up, and this is my crazy and this is how it shows up, and here's all my dirty laundry, and oh, look at that, our dirty laundry is similar in other ways, and maybe we can work together, you know towards crafting something that's different for both of us, internally and externally, in our relationship. But I don't know if they're open to that. I don't know if they're open to actually experiencing intimacy within their relationship, and both of them putting those guards down, and both of them putting, their entanglements and their safety nets to the side, and actually trying to give this a shot. I think it could be a good experiment, but it's up to them. And Makumo then says, for her, she will always choose herself first. And Tabang knows that. And so I'm glad that she's got that awareness. And so for her, she says at this point, she doesn't really feel like she has to apologize, because she doesn't know what she'd be apologizing for. She doesn't feel that she did anything wrong in how she was moving and how she was behaving. She was just choosing herself first. And this brings, I think, another important theme in terms of how we relate in this day and age, because how do you sustain an intimate romantic relationship with another person when it's always going to be I over we? at the end of the day, and I don't know, I'm not sitting here saying that I've got the answers. Um, but if you're always going to choose you, if it's always going to be me over the we, how do we relate? And maybe this is the reason that we've come to this point in our evolution of humanity where everyone's saying Mjolo is a pandemic. I don't think Mjolo itself is a pandemic. It's us walking around here with our broken little hearts, you know, trying to get ours out of the relationships. Maybe not understanding that there's a third dynamic. There's you, there's me, and then there's the we, and navigating that part of it. Because hyper individualism that we all know is happening here in the world, and we all talk about Western culture and how it's ruined us, and colonization has brought this hyper individualism that is so bad for society, and we're fragmented, and we can all see that. But in this couple, that's where I saw it, and I was like, hyper individualism is not only happening when we are out at our jobs and when we are in our families. It's not just believing there, it's believing in our relationships as well. Because if we're showing up as hyper individuals out here in the world, you're also showing up as a hyper individual in your relationship. And this is what it looks like, right? If capitalism and hyper individualism is about exploiting resources, exploiting people so that you can get what you want and you can be safe, you can have your resources stored while others figure out what they need to do. Bringing that same mentality into a relationship, how is it going to work in the long run? Question. It's just a question, guys. It's just a question. How is it going to work if it's always me over we? We're trying to relate with each other. Look at us. We're trying, but we're just crashing into each other because maybe you come into it with it's, what am I going to get out of it? Other people are asking you what you're bringing to the table so that they can see the table laid out and that they can choose what they like that you're bringing to the table. I don't even know why that question is a question that is actually asked out here. But anyway, this is where we're at. So if we're all just crashing to each other, protecting ourselves, hyper focused on what I'm going to get out of this, and if I can't get everything that I want, then I need to have Tom, Dick, and Harry lined up already because Tom utompa number 1, 2, 3, Harry utompa 4, 5, 6, and just lining it up. And I'm having these transactional crashing interactions with other human beings. And I'm not going to show you my heart until you expose your full whole heart. And then when I see your full whole heart, warts and all, maybe I might just show you a little bit of mine. But it depends on what I see. And if any part of you is lacking, you're never going to get it. I'm going to put the armor back up. I'm going to put the defenses back. What are we doing? And then we say Mjolo is a problem. It's not Mjolo, guys. It's us. It's us. It really is us. But like, guys, I'm going, whoo, Rachadi darling preaching in the midnight hours. But yeah, that was what this couple was giving me. And if there's anything that you're taking out of the many, many things that I've said, please go reflect, because what are we doing? What are we doing? This is what's the underlying in how we're relating to each other. We bring out our representatives who say, I want to be married and have children and fall in love. I'm sure they can even play. Go watch the beginning of the episode where everybody was talking about why they wanted to get married. Look at where we are now. Reunion episode 13 with all of the other themes, the undercurrents, the cruddy underbelly of what's actually going on and what people are getting into relationships with and what are their secret expectations and what secret beliefs are we harboring. Anyway, Dr. Zenda wishes them the best and she says she hopes to be invited to their wedding. Expose, girl, because I thought this was Married at First Sight. Kining ke kopa di marriage certificate. Now in when I see episode 13, things are slipping through the cracks now. Truth is being exposed. Anyway, next, Tabi and Zitobile. I'm not even going to spend too much time on these people, guys. Kining ke babua. Kining. From episode 1 until now. Essentially, they asked them where they're at. Tammy is like, listen, I didn't get married so that I can go to Dubai and leave a wife here in South Africa. Zitobile starts crying because she's like, how can you be saying that? You and I have spoken on so many occasions, excuse me, about the fact that you're going to go to Dubai and I'm going to come and visit you. Now we're sitting here on this couch. You're busy telling these people that, like, you can't go and leave me here, threatening, the safety and the security, waterfalls, tears, and I'm never going to want to shut somebody down and call them, you know, use sensitive as a negative descriptor for a person. Because I think as human beings, most of us are not sensitive enough. We're not actually feeling our feelings. My only request for Uzitobile is, girl, please can you get an intervention of therapy, not this one, but of therapy, because your emotions are controlling you. And I think that is going to make it very difficult for you to have honest conversations, hard, difficult, courageous conversations that relationships require, because people are going to be scared to tell you the truth because you are always going to be crying. And this is where I can understand where Utami is coming from. Even though Tammy is not an emotionally safe person, he is not. For you, for anybody. He's not. He's not. So I don't think, Tammy is really the container that you need to hold all of that while you process it. And you need, I think, for me, girl, let's get you an intervention. That's it. Because there's nothing wrong with feeling deeply, but I think you're crying at every 10 corner. And I know this because there are some people in my life who are like this. Some of them are no longer in my life, but some of them are still. People will struggle to tell you the truth, which means that you are then not really having authentic relationships with people, because people will be holding things back because we are scared that this person is so sensitive. If you say one thing, it's tears, and then you have to be wiping tears and dealing with them, obatsidisa, obaduduza, rather than coming back to the issue that we were trying to address in the beginning. So for me, if you can just, Zitobile, for your own personal growth and development moving forward, look into that, my sister, please. And then, Tammy's talking about next steps, and he's like, yes, he wants to get Lobola and stuff together, but he needs to save up the money. So for him, he can't be sending letters to Zitobile's uncles, and Zitobile's like, but I was expecting the letters. This is what we discussed. Bake is like, listen, guys, as far as the cultural things that need to be happening, you guys can decide those terms. He even asks Sebenzile, you're also Zulu, how do things work? Sebenzile was like, listen, you are Tammy, you are Zulu, but you're also Tammy, so you can work around whatever traditions that you have and make them your own. So Bake is also like, listen, outside of Lobola and everything else that needs to happen, Tammy, you need to have a vision. It seems like you don't have a clear vision for your life and where you want to go and how you basically want to lead as a man. There's no vision here. And without a vision, Uzitobile can't follow. What is she following? There's no clear picture of what's going to happen. And Bake said you can sort out the Lobola stuff later, but as long as you go, another expose, as long as you go and sign and get married at the Department of Home Affairs and sign a marriage certificate that is recognized under the Constitution of South Africa. Exposés were left, right, and center here, guys. This Married at First Sight, it's a suggestion of a title. I don't think these people were married. allegedly, because some people are litigious out here. Anyway, Dr. Zenda then tells them they should just be kind to each other, and that's what she's leaving them with. For me, I was like, that's great, but why are they the only couple that's getting some therapy here? Because everybody else could have used some therapy takeaways. What we needed in conclusion of this review for this episode, where was Anele? We missed you, Anele. Missed you. We missed you, my Prada. And I'm not saying those three couldn't hack it. They did a decent job, but like we needed Anila to come, call a thing, and just hit it on top of the head. But maybe it was also editing. But for me, particularly from Dr. Zenda, I think she was trying to be a host and an expert at the same time, which maybe is not an easy thing to do. But I just feel like where was the energy they had in the recommitment ceremony? I just needed more of that energy. I appreciate Bake's comments. I appreciate Nagwanda's comments. I appreciate Dr. Zenda's comments. I don't want to be, just calling people out. I think they did a good job. But we needed you, Anele. Please come back, Anele. Anyway, we have come to the end of this review. Lord, it's just Nkara hour is a standard, guys. It really is just a standard. You know what I mean? Like, let's welcome to it. Maybe nah, I must just get used to it. This is what it is. We have a reunion, another reunion, the actual reunion next week, with a host, and it seems like, whoo, that's where it's gonna be spicy. People are going to be exposed, and then whatever is happening between Buitsepo and D, this dislike of each other is going to come to a head next week. So my messy ass cannot wait for that. I hope you enjoyed this review, and thank you for staying until the end. There was a lot that was happening here, guys. I can't even remember most of it because I wanna go editing. Ragadi ne arera kajeko. Ne ke rera, guys. Um Love and light, guys. Have a great week ahead. I will see you for the next upload. And yes, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell button so that you know when I've uploaded something new. And to continue all of my lovelies to spread love and not hate. Ciao from Rakadi.